Hello folks. Okay, last time around we looked at the use of if statements in Bash, so this time we'll tackle the use of loops. I don't think there will be too many big surprises here. There's a little bit of unusual syntax once again, but the concepts should be pretty straightforward. So we'll talk about while loops, for loops, and a couple of the more unusual for loops that we might run across. All right, so the most basic loop that we'll take a look at is the while loop. Ooh, there's actually a syntax error there. That should be a lowercase w for while. However, same idea. We can use the single square bracket or the double square bracket notation for the expression that we're checking. And same basic notion, while some expression, do whatever the body of your loop is, and then a done to end it. So I think with our if statements, you noticed that it was a phi to end your if statement. With while loops, it's a do and a done. With for loops, it's a do and a done, as delimiting the body of the loop. So this is saying while x is less than 5, do print x, and then again we've got the math expression here. You can get away with the plus plus operator inside those double round brackets. So we're saying while x is less than 5, print x, and then add 1 to x, and just keep going as long as this is true. So that shouldn't be too much of a shock. There's also a C-style for loop that you can use inside the double round brackets. So you can go through and say, okay, well, let's start up with x is initialized to 1, while it's less than 10, do the body of the loop and add 1 to x. And again, other than the double brackets and the do and done, it's pretty much the same idea as a C-style loop. So in this case, it's going to go through the values 1 to 9, printing them out. There's another style of for loop that we can play with that uses in. And this is basically saying do something with a bunch of values in an array or in some sequence of words. So the syntax looks like this. For x in and a bunch of values, do something or other. So x is going to be the variable that it's using to iterate across things, and this is going to go through, in this case, the 3 values, the text A, the text B, and the text C, and do something with it. So if you've got a whole bunch of words in a string and you want to do something with each word, you can say for x in, and whatever the variable is that's holding the string, do, and something with the current word. You can use the same sort of idea with arrays. If you want to do something with each value in an array, you can say for x in and then dollar, well, the name of the array. In this case, just to kind of sneak preview, the $A is the special name for the array of command line arguments passed to a script. I don't think I actually meant to toss that in quite this early, but that's the idea. So you can say for x in the values of an array, do something with the current value. So you've got this second style of for loop that's going to come up quite often. We can go through, and again, since this is based on the idea of sort of command processing, we're going to do a lot of file processing. It's not unusual to go through and want to do something with every line of a file. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that since it's a common form of iteration for us. And essentially, what we'll do is it's the same sort of idea as we just looked at with the for x in, but instead of looking at words in a string, we're going to say let's look at lines in a string. So we basically just specify that when you're trying to separate things in this string into chunks to look at, here's the separator to use. Here's the character to use to look for to separate things into different parts. So ifs is this special variable we use to specify what separator we're interested in. So if we say, let's set ifs to the character \n, this is saying, okay, for whatever we're doing, assume that we're trying to separate things into lines. I think the default for this is pretty much space. Right? So the default for ifs. So this is saying in whatever we do next, break it up by lines. So now if I say for a line in and some variable that's got a bunch of text in it, that text might include new lines in there, So this is saying, okay, let's just go through it one line at a time. So by default, you can go through and process things one word at a time. If we want to, we can go through and process it one line at a time. Now, we can do the same sort of thing, and what have I done here? I don't see how the redirect comes in. Da, 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 da. Okay, I think we can safely ignore that with the less than redirect, because that's really not what I'm doing here. I'm not quite sure where that came from. However, what we're going to do in this chunk is essentially go through and just, oh, I see what I'm talking about. Okay, we're going to read a bunch of lines and just spew them out. This is not actually going through and reading from the file. This is just going through and reading from text one line at a time. I have no idea what I was going for with this one. So we'll just skip happily past and pretend this never existed, and we'll look at some examples when we play with things in the command line side of things. So if we want to go through, I bet I know what happened. I bet there was supposed to be, no, that doesn't work. Yeah, never mind. I don't know what I was planning. So what we'll do instead is look at an example where we'll run some command, capture the output from that, and read it one line at a time. That one looks about right. So we'll go through and read line at a time from whatever it is we want to do, process one line at a time. Here the processing just consists of printing it out, but we're using the triple less than, the here, to go through and say, okay, when you're processing this, take your input from the result of running this command. This is basically saying, run this command, pipe the input into this block of bash. And so that block of bash is just going through and reading things one line at a time and processing it. All right, well, let's try actually playing with some of this stuff, and we'll see what we've got here. I think I call this one loops. Does that sound about right? That looks about right. So here we've just got a handful of examples to go through and play with some of the things that we've tried here. So we're going to run a simple while loop first. So this first while loop is just going to say, okay, well, let's get the user to keep entering words until they enter the word quit. So we'll have a while the word that they're entering isn't quit, do prompt them, read in what they type, and we'll just keep repeating this over and over and over until they say quit. Then we'll go through a simple while loop example. I think this is pretty close to the one that we mentioned in the slides, where we'll say, okay, well, while x is less than 5, print out x and go up by 1. Again, just basic syntax to see how it works. Then we'll do the same sort of thing for loop style, the C style for loop. So this is counting down from x is 5, and while x is bigger than 1, we'll go down by 1s, and we'll just print x each time through. Right, so just a whole slew of simple examples to show what's going on with our loops. We'll try an example using in, where we've got some line of text, hello there folks, and we'll just say for w in this list of words, do something with the current word. So it's just going to print it out one word at a time. So again, let's just give this a quick try and see if this actually works. So this is that first one where we're saying let's keep going until they enter quit. So we'll say foo, blah, and quit. And so it finishes that first one and jumps on to our other two examples. So that first while loop that was counting up from 1 while it was less than 5. That for loop where it was counting down from 5 while it was bigger than 1. And that for loop where it was going through the words in that line of text. So for W in hello there folks, print out W. All right? So again, we can play with our basic loops in pretty straightforward fashion. It's just getting used to the bash syntax, and then things should be relatively okay. All right, we will leave it there for a moment. And I think next time around we'll come back with functions, and then maybe we can start getting into some real scripting.